while you were working with Alan and as he was working on these projects, you continued your search for a permanent CMO, and that search eventually led to Cheryl here. But once you named Cheryl as the permanent CMO, you decided to keep Alan on as a coach. Can you walk us through that?
One was obviously there was a transition period where Alan needed to hand over. And then two, we're strong believers in providing sounding boards or enabling sounding boards for our executive team members, because the old adage is lonely at the top has never been truer, especially in marketing, because marketing is one of those disciplines where everybody assumes they're a marketer. Everybody has the best idea for really what you should do and how you should do things. And you often find yourself in challenging situations as a chief marketing officer trying to, drive new initiatives for demand generation or branding through. So it's always really, really good to have somebody who you can call up and say, hey, what do you think about this? What's the rationale? Somebody who's a sort of peer in your discipline and can really bounce good ideas off and refine and hone them. So that role is extremely valuable and something we're incredibly supportive of.
Cheryl, when you arrived at FinThrive, Alan was just wrapping up his interim role. How did that transition work between you and him?
It was a really interesting one because the way that I found out about that, I was actually at an ELT offsite, and I had heard them speaking about their interim CMO and Alan, and then finally someone kind of figured out and said, "Do you know Alan Gonsenhauser?" And I said, "Yes, of course I do." So they said, "Well, he's the interim CMO." So it was really interesting. And, from my perspective, it was like having a friend there doing your onboarding. So you start a new organization, you don't know anybody, and sort of walk in with Alan. So we immediately just connected. And then just, he was really driving a lot of the onboarding in the first, at least the month and then beyond that I was there. So it was fantastic to have, a friendly face there to greet me with open arms into the marketing team.
Sounds like it was really helpful to have someone like Alan there, and he was able to maybe accelerate some of the learnings and some of that transition. Am I correct?
I cannot tell you how valuable that was, because usually when you're joining an organization, you're replacing somebody that hasn't been there the position's been vacant for weeks or months, and you spend the majority of your time trying to sort of reconstruct. It was like, the accident where they're reconstructing what happened. And it takes so much of your time focused on the history. And so I think that's one thing, as I was able to get up to speed really quickly because Alan could and speaking my language as well. You're also trying to get the understanding of the marketing organization from other sort of functional owners who aren't really marketing professionals. And so they have a different perspective. So having a marketing professional in place there to sort of hold my hand as we came on board was definitely got me focused on the go forward plan quicker and definitely cut back on the time that I spent trying to catch up, if you will.
Alan, once again, I want to get your perspective on this. Can you describe for us what it was like to work with Cheryl as an executive coach?
Cheryl is wonderful. She's great to work with. She's very open to new ideas, to continuously improve marketing's effectiveness and performance, and also to gain cross-functional alignment. So it's been a pleasure working with her, really, over this time.
It really does sound like the transition between Alan and yourself went really smoothly. And it wasn't like you had to come in and immediately had to clean house or start up from scratch. Like a lot of the foundation work that Alan had put in, sounds like you were able to just leverage that and run. Is that right?
Exactly right. And again, kind of back to Alan's focus on best practice from his journey across his career. I also knew coming in that he was putting the right things in place. And so it wasn't reinforcing bad habits. He was putting best practice process in place. He was doing best practice education in place. And so we were very much aligned in that immediately. So I could just pick up on what Alan, I didn't have to deconstruct anything. I could just pick up with what he started, and allowed me to go a lot faster and in turn give faster results back to the business.
Alan is still involved with FinThrive, but now more in the coaching role. I'd love to hear your perspective on how it's like working with him in that capacity.
Absolutely. So, when I joined FinThrive, there was, the mandate was to rebuild part of the marketing organization. So a lot of, very fast-paced growth. FinThrive is an emerging leader in the space. We had made 2 big acquisitions. in the past year. And so having Alan on board for that continuity for the team was really important for me. So there was so much change happening. Actually keeping Alan on board was helpful, not just for coaching for myself and having somebody to bounce ideas off of, but for the rest of the team that he was working with. Just having that in place while I built out the rest of the organization gave them some comfort that they had somebody to go to, and then there was some consistency there. So it was very helpful.